Hey now, everybody. Welcome to DDO Players. I am your host, Drac. Of course, DDO Players News is the podcast where we talk about the latest from the world of Dungeons & Dragons Online, the tabletop, and beyond. I am joined by a couple special guests who have not been on the show for a while. We have Miss BonnieBew.
Hi, I'm special.
Yeah, you are special. It has been a long time since you have been on this podcast, Miss.
It has been. I can't even remember what we talked about the last time I was on.
Good Lord, I don't remember either.
It's probably gnomes.
Gnomes are coming. They're coming for you.
Probably. Nomageddon, probably. See, now I'm going to have to slice that in because I said that. I don't have it ready now, but I will slice it in post because everybody remembers the rule here on DDO Players News. And we are joined by the DM extraordinaire, Mr. EvilBeeker.
Hey, how's it going?
I am pretty good. How about you?
Good. I think I was on right before COVID.
Probably. I think, yeah, you were on right about the time
November, December.
Yeah, because I know we talked about Borderlands and we talked about your WotC history and all that fun stuff. Well, TSR technically for you, but yeah.
I've never worked for a WotC ever.
I will keep my comment I'm about to say to myself, and we'll just move on to the game news, because we actually have game news. I know people are shocked. It's like, oh my God, you're going to talk about DDO? Yes, we have DDO news. It's crazy. There is a couple posts over on the forums from Steel Star. They are going to do a little adjusting to the Shadar-Kai and the Radiant Servant. So Steel Star posted over on the forums. He says, hey, everyone. Steel Star here to give you a first look at a pair of smaller revamps currently slated for update 50. These two passes are quick sets of changes they did around upcoming features that they're working on. So while they may not be a complete overhaul, we hope some interesting build options come about them. So for the Shadar-Kai, the changes they have proposed to make, and keep in mind, this is all proposed right now. They're still working on this, and I'm sure we'll see this on the Mania, and then people can jump in and talk about it once they actually see it on the Mania, so keep that in mind. At level 1, all Shadar-Kai characters are now going to get a feat called Spiked Chain Attack. Light melee weapon attack using a spiked chain, but with the stats from your main hand weapon. And you're going to perform 3 AoE melee attacks with +1 critical threat range, and +1 critical multiplier. Your Shadar-Kai racial enhancements may add to this attack, and that has a 12-second cooldown. I mean, that sounds okay.
Woohoo!
I wonder if they're going to change the animation.
Make it smoother.
I bet, because I know they're really working on a lot of animations and stuff that we have talked about before too, with all the animation changes. So I bet they do. He does say the spike chain attack is now an innate feat for all Shadar-Kai, and you're going to get it without needing to spend points in the tree. Existing Shadar-Kai characters, when this does go live, will have the feat versioned onto them. While pretty powerful, Shadar-Kai don't otherwise get any free feats. Free skill bonuses are free weapon proficiencies.
I like about their changes. Things being free. I like free stuff.
Exactly, free. We all love free stuff. Free stuff is the best stuff.
Anything I don't have to spend action points on or whatever from the enhancement trees is a good change.
Then the Vicious Chain, that has moved from Tier 2 to Tier 1. It's otherwise unchanged, giving you a 33% chance to bleed each hit on your spike chain. Forceful Chain has also been moved from T3 to T2. It does keep its essential role, but it now reads your spike chain attack now has a 5% chance to knock down non-boss enemies with no save for 6 seconds. Every 2 seconds, they make a balance save of 17 plus your dex mod plus your trip DC for them to get up again. The slashing chain is now gone. Its role was primarily to bulk up the bad damage of the old chain, which with this new change they're going to do is no longer needed. There is a new T3 a skill in the tree called Ghostly Chain. When you use your spike chain attack, you gain +5 dodge for 6 seconds, and this will ignore the dodge cap. And then another new tier 3 is the Displacement SLA with 0 SP cost. That is very good. This is Steel Star saying this, but Shadar-Kai is a long way from good currently. So we feel that their ties to the Shadowfell and Rogue theming mean they should have good access to one of the stronger avoidance defenses out there.
So it just occurred to me, if they make Shadar-Kai really scary, does that mean that Wei Lun is going to be really bad? Like, more murderous?
I mean, it's not fun now. I was going to say, it's not the greatest now, yeah.
Like, what is it? The Thrill of the Hunt? The end boss?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not as much now, but when it first came out, that was really kind of devastating, the damage that the boss could do with their chain attacks and stuff. And I'm wondering if it's going to get amped up even more with these changes, if it's going to apply to the mobs now too.
Oh, I bet it will. I bet this will trickle down into mob. I mean, they didn't really necessarily say that, but usually I do believe like any changes they make tends to affect monsters as well. So, and then a couple more new things for the Shadar-Kai. T4 Whirling Chain. That has been changed to Greater Spiked Chain Attack. Light melee weapon attack using a spiked chain, but with the stats from your main weapon hand. You perform 3 AoE melee attacks with a +3, +2 crit threat range, and a +2 critical multiplier. All abilities that enhance spiked chain attack will also apply to this enhancement. In addition, when you vorpal with the attack, you will knock your enemies down with no save for 6 seconds, and every 2 seconds they make a balance save, 17 plus your dex mod plus your trip DCs to get up again. That one has an 18-second cooldown. He did point out that this now also uses the 3 swing animation that the base feat uses, with all improvements that version got. And the advantage of this version is higher damage, the extra chance at the knockdown, and being on a separate cooldown, which is important to the last new addition, which is a new T4 Assassin's Mark. Non-boss enemies caught in your spike chain attacks have a 33% gain a stack of dizzying spiked chain on each of the 3 hits. Minus 10% damage per stack, minus 5% attack speed per stack, minus 2 concentration per stack, and the stack will up to 8 times, and it's got a 20-second cooldown per each stack. This is the same debuff that Shadar-Kai monsters throw around, but rebalanced slightly for the player version. Only 33% chance of each hit applying a stack, and it can't apply to bosses or raid bosses. So it sounds like the thing that everybody hates that Shadar-Kai in the game do to us, we are not going to be able to do to mobs. Just slightly rebalanced. I like how they say slightly rebalanced. So that's it for the Shadar-Kai adjustments, the proposed adjustments. That doesn't sound too horrible. I might actually break my Shadar-Kai out and try this when it hits Lamania, whenever that is. Once again, they are looking at update 50 for this. So that's the proposed time these will come in. And then Steel Star also talked about some Radiant Servant adjustments. Just full disclosure here, never played a Cleric, therefore never played a Radiant Servant. So I have no idea if any of this is good or bad. And I know we were kind of talking before the show. I don't think either one of you really plays clerics either,
I have
right?
some opinions.
Oh, do you? Okay.
When I play cleric, I do play Radiant Servant.
Well, good. I'm glad you're here then, because I'm like, oh no, is this good or bad?
It's like the most interesting man, like when I do drink beer.
Exactly. So this is what's going on with the Radiant Servant. Steel Star says the second of these two previews is for the Cleric Radiant Servant Enhancement Tree, the primary healing tree for clerics. It has a long history of bad bang for your buck. Almost everything costs 2 AP, meaning it costs close to 80 AP just to max out one tree. And some of the abilities are simply lackluster. Like they said with the Shadar-Kai, these passes are fast. So while they are definitely other things we can improve in the future, we aimed for changes that were both fast and would help address the issues. The usual warning applies. Early preview content likely to change before it goes on live. So pacifism is gone from Core 2, and it's being replaced with a Cure Moderate Wounds SLA for 4 SP and a 6-second cooldown. Okay, that doesn't sound horrible. Steelstar does add that pacifism is an odd ability. While there are certain builds that like and use it, the ability to toggle it on and off made it not really fitting for the flavor of the ability, and the trade-offs for the power didn't really matter much. And it is its position in Core 2 meant you had to take it even if you didn't want it. Why we went through a few iterations of trying to make something up before scrapping it outright, Radiant Servant should have a lot of new points to put elsewhere after this pass. And the resulting build should be stronger even without pacifism. So did you use pacifism with your Radiant Servant?
I mean, it was just there. You pretty much had to take it. I think it was a core. It was a core.
Yeah, it used to be.
When I did Radiant Servant, it was really all about having the sparkle. So you had like the aura of healing around you, so people could just huddle up next to you if they wanted healing.
Right.
And you'd had the burst for emergency situations or dealing with undead. So it was really focused around, I was really focused around having maximum burst, having a lot of positive spell energy.
Okay. All right. So also, Radiant Servant in the 6th core is now going to grant a +4 wisdom instead of the +2 that it granted before. Steelstar adds most of the core capstones now grant a total of +4 in ability scores. So this is just bringing it to match the rest. Many enhancements in the tree now cost 1 AP per rank. That used to cost 2 AP per rank. So pretty much most of them: Divine Cleansing, Mighty Turning, Bliss, Divine Healing, Intense Healing, Endless Turning, Incredible Healing, Positive Energy Aura, Cure Focus, and Reactive Heal, now all 1 per rank instead of 2. The Extra Turning and Improved Turning are now combined in T2. She says, we did this in the Knights of the Chalice work they did a while back, so they are glad to finally bring it to the Radiant Servant as well. And then the new stuff. In Tier 1, you get a Divine Aid. It is a +2 positive spell critical damage, cost 1 AP. T3, Divine Aid, +2 positive spell critical damage, 1 AP as well. Disconnecting the prerequisite Chain of Divine Healing, Martyrdom, and Reactive Healing. And then your new thing here is a new near T5, Raise Dead SLA, 15 SP with a 9-second cooldown, and that cost 1 AP. He does add that this is the same SLA that the Beacon of Hope got in T5, but they felt it was an important tool for the healing builds to have.
I disagree, but okay.
Okay, really? Why?
One of the first people who commented in this thread, I think it's Azoin, maybe?
Yeah.
AZOY.
Yeah.
They like posted in the forum exactly what I was thinking. I mean, the Race Dead is not really, I think, super useful because scrolls. I think I tend to use scrolls for a lot of reses. If I'm raising people, usually I want something, if it's really urgent, I want something more like Resurrection or True Resurrection. Especially if it's a raid. And the only time I feel like I'm really pressured to raise a lot of people quickly would be more like a legendary kind of level raid, which I don't think affects a lot of people who play. So
Okay.
It seems kind of like
That's
a
solid.
waste of a tier 5 activity to have Raised Dead there.
And
I would rather have more positive spell power, more crits.
I'm kind of scrolling through the thread, and it looks like I see a lot of people are basically bringing up exactly what you just said, actually, too.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they might tweak that a little bit just based on some of the early feedback they got. I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, we'll have to wait to actually see this on Lamania.
Yeah.
But
So I love that everything's going to be cheaper.
yeah, that's pretty good. And and it looks like a lot of people are liking that as well, too, which I guess, like I said, I've never played a Radiant Service, so I didn't realize everything was like 2 AP. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other trees that are like that, too, but that's just, I hate trees that are like that because it's like, really 2 AP for everything? Oh, my God.
But the Raised Dead SLA is really just underwhelming. And I think it was pointed out that overall the tree has 20 less positive spell power, but it does have like a little bit more in terms of critical positive spell power. No. So I feel like I would have rather that they had like just plus 30 positive spell power or something instead of a Raised Dead SLA.
Which I can see. Like I said, we'll have to see what happens and what they do. This is far from going live, so we'll just reiterate that again. This is early thoughts, and I'm sure we'll see this on Lamania before. I would hope we would see it on Lamania before they actually put it into live. Then also, there's going to be another T5. It's called Radiance Activate. All allies in the dungeon, regardless of distance, are going to gain the effects of the Greater Restoration spell. It's going to purge paralysis, stun, and knockdown/trip. This can be used while crowd controlled. Activation is 30 spell points, and the cooldown is 1 minute.
That's kind of interesting.
Steelstar does add, we wanted to give this tree something shiny in Tier 5, and a get the party out of a jam button seemed just like the thing to do. So yeah, that is kind of an interesting thing they're doing. So that's kind of a look at what they want to do with the Radiant Servant and the Shadar-Kai. So,
it doesn't say whether that's 2 AP or not.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
That sounds more like a 2 AP kind of shiny.
I would think so. That sounds like it's a capstone. So yeah, I would think so. I would assume that would be the capstone, right? You would think? Probably. Yeah, Steelstar didn't mention that in there, so we'll have to see. But as I said, early thoughts on that, so stay tuned. We'll see what happens. Like I said, hopefully we'll get to play with it on Lamania as well. Anything else we want to add about either one of those?
I got nothing.
I'm going to say the silence says it all. So let's go to our DDO Chronicle issue 428. And no clue where the Chronicle cover comes from this week. Guessing one of the new quests, maybe, that I don't remember. I did some of them, but not all of them. So maybe it's
I have not done the new quests.
So, it's basically 2 shrines. I'm guessing it's from one of the new dungeons. We'll just go with that. If anybody knows, let us know in the comments. Our podcast at DDOplayers.com. In the community spotlight of our Chronicle this week, the annual Munchkin Summer Games is kicking off. Actually, it kicked off last weekend. Go ahead and click over in the Chronicle to read more about the yearly player-run rating event over on the forums. I know a lot of people look forward to the Munchkin Summer Games, so glad to see that event back. Then also, Aldbar has created an extensive series of videos on the Inspired Quarter Quest. You can get a Dreamforge crafting guide and more. Click over on the forums to link to that. You know, that is a set of quests that I don't run very often. I'll admit that. I like those quests. I just don't run them very often for some reason. I really don't know.
I've been doing
why.
A decent amount lately.
Are you doing the Dreamforge crafting? Is that why you're running them, or you just
no? Well, actually, I've been. I guess does Dreamforge, because there's items that you get out of Mindsunder that you can update.
Right. Yeah.
There's also the Iron Stones, and I've been after Iron Stones lately because I've been playing on servers that aren't my home server.
Oh, gotcha.
And I need to get some goodies.
Gotcha. So check out that. I always like it when people in the community make like little quest guides and stuff like this. It's cool. That is one of the cool things about the DDO community is all of the stuff like this that people make. Even still in this game, as old as it is, people are still making videos and quest guides for quest and dungeons. Which
or
is
apps about how to solve puzzles.
Yeah, see, exactly. Ooh, I love the pausing apps. If I don't have Pine Leaf with me, I'm like, okay, let's look this up on the app. Cool. All right,
Check
great.
out Grimoire's app on the Apple Store.
Yep, that's the one I use.
For new.
That is the one I use. Plug. Also in our guild hall this week, Rast is looking for fellow players to do Reaper difficulty rating over on Kyber. This group aims to play during the evenings in the Australian Western Standard Time Zone. That is a very specific time zone to play in, but okay, if you find yourself up either late or early, whichever that translates into your time zone, check out that. You can click over in the forums to find out more about Rast, the guild hall.
I think that would be early in the morning for us.
I think so. Yeah, I do. I was trying to do that math, and I think it is correct.
Hey, Drac.
Yeah, sure.
Have we ever heard about how well overseas connections play on DDO? Has there ever been anything done on that? I was just thinking about it because obviously we got a guys playing in Australia. Then there was that big Polish guild.
Yeah. I gotta say, there's a big Polish contingent that plays.
I know in the early days I had heard.
Yeah, I don't know.
That when Wayfinder used to be, the overseas server. I'd be interested to know how that plays out.
Yeah, I would too. I never thought about that, but yeah, I wonder.
I mean, the UK, it's pretty much as good as we have it here.
Yeah.
So I would assume the rest of Europe, but it would be interesting to hear how, like, say, Australia or anyone in Asia,
Netherlands, things like that.
Yeah, that actually would be. That's I never thought about. So yeah, that would be interesting.
I've had guildies from like Argentina and stuff, and there's DDO Brazil, and I haven't heard anything.
Hopefully,
that part of the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. Well, that bodes well for DDO then. I mean, that makes it more of a global MMO than like ones you can only play in China or only the US. I know some of the ones that are in the US are very difficult to play overseas.
So yeah, if anybody listening is overseas, which I know we do have listeners from all over, because I can see where people download the podcast. I can see that on YouTube too, and we do have a lot of that too. So yeah, so if you're playing overseas, comment. Let us know, because that's interesting.
There's Drac for everybody.
That's right. All are welcome here at DDO. We do have the fan site news section of our chronicle this week. And DDO Cast is delving into the sinister secrets of the Saltmarsh with a special guest who is actually one of our special guests. That was Mr. Beeker. He was on that podcast.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, you just don't remember that. And I do have to say one thing to you about your appearance on DDO Cast.
What was that?
Kudos for the plug for this show.
Yeah, hey.
I heard that, and I'm like, well done, Mr. Beeker. Well done.
Thank you.
So yeah, listen to that. Basically, Beeker talked about the Sinister Secrets of Saltmarsh and maybe what DDO is going to do with it. Some speculation, because it's coming soon? ? We'll talk about that here in a second. DDO Stream, of course, your first stop to find DDO over on Twitch. Voodoo Spice is kicking off his week in style. DDO PL gets discharged. Speaking of international players, DDO PL is Polish. And Fridays on Ice is questing in the Vale of Twilight. Also on Twitch, Samus Garobo gets closer on hardcore. Proxy Lily is traveling into the waterworks, and Be More Artistic is practicing aiming. YouTube, lots of videos going over there. Strim Tom is taking a Hessian monk from level 1 to 20 in just 11 hours. That's crazy. Axel has
box.
Yeah, that's insane. But okay, well done, Strim Tom, for that. Axel has 20 tips to solo Reaper, and Planky runs a battle engineer. The screenshot of the week is Thalison is arriving in Amarath with her unicorn from the Feywild. That's the 512th video screenshot of the week. And of course, we have a chronicle comment to round out our chronicle. Following in your character's footstep will lead to blank.
Certain death.
Lost.
A series of bad life decisions.
It's depends on the level too, because it's
Well, that's true. That's true.
level, I think 18. My characters typically don't have footsteps
Oh.
because I'm playing warlocks. They float.
Oh, see, there you go. So I guess it depends on your character class. So there you go.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
If you had the footsteps from hardcore and you ran in a circle, would you be following your footsteps?
Oh, wow. You just blew my mind, sir. You totally just blew my mind.
Good thing Pine Leaf isn't here.
That's right. Yeah, because Pine Leaf would like explain this in like quantum physics terms and tell us how that's physically not possible. But, we'll see. Of course, I'll have to tell him about that because if you listen to last week's show, we find out when he's not here, he pays no attention to the show or anything we post on the site.
Got him. All we want.
I'm never going to let him live that down. Oh, actually, before we go to the dungeon, we were going to talk about Sinister Secrets of the Saltmarsh mini expansion for DDO and when it was coming. I forgot about that. The producer's letter said summer, and summer is in 2 weeks, right?
No, it's here already.
Yeah, I was going to say it's here already.
It's here in spirit, but like June 21st, is that the time?
I think, 21st, 22nd, something like that, yeah.
That's like
the weather is definitely here.
2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah, just soon. So, and have no idea.
An update 50?
Do what? I'm sorry.
Because they gave us these previews for Shadar-Kai and Radiant Circle that are going to be in update 50. So is Sinister Secrets going to be part of update 50?
That's a good question.
We have to wait for 51.
That's a good question. They haven't really said, but let's see. The last, and I'm going to have to look it up because I can't remember. Update. Okay, so the last one we got was the Peril of the Planar Eyes, and that Peril of the Planar Eyes. Words really hard for me tonight. Which was update 49. So update 50 technically would be the next one. So I would think update 50 technically would be Saltmarsh.
Hoping.
Guess we'll see. And then I do know somewhere on the forums, don't ask me where it was, one of the devs, and I don't remember which one, it might have been Steel Star, did say that they were shooting for level 3, 32 for the level range.
I saw that and I immediately went into denial.
Yeah, that's...
Oh, no, they wouldn't do that.
Which
3? That's horrible.
Yeah.
Overloaded now.
Which I have a much better idea where they could stick that other, but 3 and 32.
Well, Patrick and I talked about it because we thought, well, you have Keep, and then you have Feywild, and then you have the Gatekeeper's Grove.
Yeah, that's really no expansion.
And then you have Temple, Slaver. Maybe you would fit it in 8, 9, and then you got Ravenloft.
That's exactly where I was thinking. Yep.
Or then maybe you would fit it in 13, 14. Then you have Sharn, and then what did we say after Sharn? And then when you had like Forgotten
I think
Realms.
always skinnier for wanting more XP, having more variety in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Expansion certainly helped in that regard, but I think there's still room for fun and exciting things that are level 13 and higher.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like the idea of 8 or 9 because then like all of the classic packs would just kind of lead right into each other. You know, you could go to Keep and then go to why am I blanking on the name? Help me out here, Beaker.
You go to Keeper's Grove. Well, yeah. If you look at the classic ones, but if you look at when you say classic TSR. Yeah. You'd go Keep, and then you join, and then the middle. Maybe you put Sinister there, so you go Keep, Sinister, Temple, Slavers, Ravenloft, and then you'd have to go Sharn and then Forgotten Realms. But then there's a lot of in the middle there. But, I don't know.
Yeah, 332 is what that's what they had said. I don't know if they'll change that plan. I'm assuming that's like locked in. They just said, and that got kind of quote unquote leaked a long time back. like
on Amazon.
Exactly. Yeah, somebody saw it on Amazon, and then they were like, "Oh wait, no." It was one of the previews that was on Lemania, like often happens on Lemania.
Yeah, that's what I saw.
Yeah, stuff usually
Almost
gets
like
in like the adventure compendium, and and it was like a really weird level on there. I forgot what it was. It was like 1223 or something. And then he was like, "Oh, no, that was wrong. That's not what it is. It's actually going to be 3 to 32." So that's how we found out. So I'm assuming it's still going to be 332.
Ew.
Yeah.
Especially because there's such a wide range of. I mean, in the original one, there's like a 5-level span, and in the 5e update, there's a 7-level span between those quests. And I can see it being lower level for like the first quests in the chain, but by the time you get to the final enemy, that's not level 3.
Right, exactly. So I guess if they keep it at level 3, what they're thinking people are going to do is they're going to go keep on the Borderlands, and then they're going to go right into Saltmarsh.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed. I've mainly been doing 5K favor runs lately, and it's so saturated if you try to do things roughly at level that just means I'm going to be just throwing away XP. And there's so much level 3 right now.
So, like I said, we'll see if that changes, but 332. Okay.
If they've confirmed 3, I have a feeling that's not going to change because there's so much more work involved with changing everything.
True. So
from level 3 to something else.
I'll be interested to see what they do because I always kind of liked Saltmarsh, the original Saltmarsh. So, Ghost of Saltmarsh was really good too. What WotC, how they updated it. So it'll be interesting to see what. And I know we kind of talked about this before the show too, and EvilBeeker and Patrick kind of talked about it on DDO Cast too. That if they kind of do what they did with, they took Curse of Strahd, and that's kind of what they'll do with Saltmarsh probably. So it should probably turn out pretty good. I will say one thing about Standing Stone Games. They can take classic modules and they make them into DDO really, really well. At least so far, I think. I mean, there's been a couple things that were like, yeah, you probably could have done this a little different. But overall, I think they are good at creating DDO-ish quest out of modules. So
and Saltmarsh is Lizardmen and Sahagin. So
this is a dwarven translation of an Elvish word, so it is pronounced Sawajin.
We already have that.
True. Yeah.
Pretty much all the resources they already have available.
Yeah. So we'll see. So hopefully, and I don't think it was this week's weekly live stream with Jerry, but maybe the last week's. He did state he's seen a couple early previews of it and some things, and I guess they are looking at a Lemania. I hate to say, the word soon, TM, but that's pretty much what he said. Like, soon we'll see it on Lemania. So it's getting closer.
When you see it on Lemania, that means it's like 3 days to a month before it's actually released. That's how many previews they do.
That's true.
As a Lemania preview, and then the next thing you know, it's coming out.
Usually for expansions, they do a couple previews, but since this is a quote-unquote mini expansion, I'm kind of thinking we're probably only get one preview on Lemania.
For a mini wait for this mini expansion.
Exactly. So we'll see. So Saltmarsh coming soon. When? We don't know. Stay tuned, as they say. Now we'll go take a look from the dungeon. The Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft book finally out in stores and available everywhere. You can get it online too on Fantasy Grounds and Roll20 both. The new book from WotC. My review, and I know Beaker, him and I kind of talked about this a little bit. Overall, I think it's a decent book. There's a lot of good stuff in it, but there's some stuff that I was just like, what the heck are you doing, WotC?
You want my opinion?
Yeah, I'm gonna say let's hear your opinion first, and then I'm gonna tell you the two things in the book that I hated, and I don't know what WotC's doing, but you go.
So if you played Ravenloft 30 years ago,
Guilty.
You may not like this book as much as people who have played 5th edition only, or maybe late 3rd edition, 5th edition. Like you said, there's some good, and I'm holding it in my hand. There are some good things in this book, and there's some questionable things in this book. So if you played the original Ravenloft, this product is after everything that was previously happened. At least that's the general timeline of it. There's a couple of things that differ between what they have in this book and what the classic one was. In the classic one, you could go from realm to realm, mostly. If there was some reason that your DM didn't want you to go to a certain realm, he would just say, oh, you go there and the mists don't let you through. But for the most part, you could travel from domain to domain. In fact, the original Ravenloft series of modules, there was actually a plot in them. There was a plot called the Grand Conjunction. Do you remember this, Drac?
Sort of. It's been a long time. But yeah, I kind of remember it.
In fact, you guys played in one of the modules for the Grand Conjunction, which was Night of the Living Dead.
Okay, all right.
Night of the Walking Dead. So
The very first Battle Rise.
Oh yeah, that was the first Heroes of Battle Wise adventure. You were right.
Yep, that was the first D&D night. Yep. So that actually plays out in like 6 different modules, and at the very end of the module, at the end of that last module, which was coincidentally right around the time that TSR sold to WotC, was at the end of the Grand Conjunction. All this stuff happened, and I'm not going to spoil it for people who want to read the book or play the old modules. But this kind of picks up after that ish. So in the new product, you can't travel from realm to realm unless you have an ability called mist walking. Am I correct in that, Drac?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
That's one of the new abilities.
Ick. Not a fan of that, because why have all these really cool lands if you can't travel between them? I mean, you might have one person or maybe no people that have this mist walking ability in your group.
And the way they kind of get around that is there's rules that the dark powers can manipulate the mist, and they can let them open or close. So if like the DM would want, okay, I want you to go from this domain to that domain, the dark powers can quote unquote open up, but yeah.
But yeah,
I just assumed what the material was for was to drop a little dread into whatever you had going on.
Well, and actually, Bonnie, you're touching on another point that I have that I didn't like about the book. But let me hold on. Before I get to that, and I'm looking at it right now, there are about 30 pages in this module that this book, for me, that I can do without. And that's the creating your own domain. Why would you do that when they give you like 30 domains in the book? I mean, that's the whole back end of the book.
Like that's the biggest chunk of the book is all the domains, right?
Right. And now then they go over the Strahd domain, Bavaria, but they don't, to me, it didn't do it enough justice where it would, because typically people would play in a Ravenloft campaign maybe after Curse of Strahd. And then, so update in this book, what happened after, maybe people played Curse of Strahd, or what happens if you played Curse of Strahd, then how do you deal with this book type of thing? Because I think at the end of Curse of Strahd, there's a whole section about, well, what if you want to keep playing in Ravenloft? Well, you just move on to one of these other domains that, neighboring domains. In the original campaign book, you had a map. They weren't all mapped out, but some of them were mapped out. Like Barovia was next to Darkon. Darkon was next to, so and so. There are people that like that, simply because then they can kind of combine things together. Or you could say, hey, you got a party of people. This person's from this domain. This person's from this domain. And then something about them is a little different. The way that they have it laid out, it makes it a little bit more difficult to do that. But my biggest complaint with this book is it doesn't tell you how to run a Ravenloft game. There's a lot of information in here about, Ravenloft is really scary and everything, but it doesn't tell a DM how to make it scary. And we did that a lot in some of the older TSR products. Like how do you run a gothic horror game? How do you run a fantasy horror game? And each one of these domains that they outline at the very top, it says, well, what kind of genre is this? Well, Bulletspoor is cosmic horror. Well, how do you run a cosmic horror game?
Do they find like what makes it different when it's cosmic horror?
It does a little bit.
Yeah, they do. They kind of briefly go over like all the different like horror type things they give you. They don't go into like much detail about them.
Some of the two biggest things when we ran and wrote Ravenloft back in the day was you had to inject fear and horror into every module. In one of the adventures that I did, the party came across a body on the ground. Well, then the body raises up and you're terrified because, there's a zombie. But then you realize it isn't a zombie, it's a human whose flesh is melting off of him. So you go from being scared to being horrified. And I know that might sound pretty nasty for some people's games.
Sounds amazing to me.
I was like, after last year, I don't really need to put more dread into anything. So I was just skip.
So and then you had fear and horror checks. And I mentioned Drac, I mentioned this to you when Curse of Strahd came out. There's no fear and horror checks anymore in Ravenloft, which I think there should be, because I think it adds a little bit more flavor, or it gives the DM the ability to add flavor.
Right.
Because they Underdark with the insanity checks, didn't they? There was some kind of check.
There are. I mean, those are more like saving throws. I mean, not saving throws. Just like, well, I guess saving throws would be the right word, but it's a situational thing. Because people can be scared of anything, but there's definitely a difference between being scared and horrified.
Right, and the only thing they give you in this is they do have a fear type mechanic that you have to make a DC 15 Wisdom save or you're frightened.
Right, and then there's some kind of horror chart where it's like, oh, you had this horrible horror happen to you in the past. Well, that's great, but horror trinkets, they call them.
They don't expand on any of that much, though.
No, they don't. I mean, it's a good idea. So if you're looking for a continuation of your traditional Ravenloft, you're not going to get as much out of this book. I will say the domains, for the amount of pages they devote to each one, they are summarized very well. This is what I would expect to see in a campaign book. But every campaign is different. You can't run a Ravenloft game like a Forgotten Realms game. And I think that little bit is missing out of here. They got some great monsters. The swarm of zombies kind of sticks in my craw a little bit. There's also some really good overviews of, if you're in a domain, what's in that domain and some of the things going on in it. It's not for everybody, but I think it's as far as because really they haven't. WotC hasn't put out for 5th edition a campaign book. Basically, Xanathar's Guide was probably the closest thing that they came to a campaign.
And this is pretty close book. Too. So yeah. Yeah,
but it's not like the tradition where, like 3rd edition and 2nd edition, where you had the box set campaign.
Correct. Right.
Where you had the Forgotten Realms 3rd edition book that was like 4 inches thick. So, but still, the art is great. The presentation is great. The maps are really good. On a scale of 1 to 10, for me, it's probably a solid 6. There's so much more I wanted out of it. I hope they keep doing Ravenloft products, but I'm also wondering. Well, but I'm also wondering if the way that they presented this book means that there might not be any more. Or they might do the DM's Guild thing. Okay, so here's all this stuff about Ravenloft. Now let the DM's Guild community develop it into adventure resource.
Go crazy, do whatever you want on DM's Guild. Right.
Which
is what WotC kind of tends to do a lot.
Yep, and DM's Guild can be hit and miss.
True.
There's some good stuff that's come out of DM's Guild, but there's also been some average stuff. If you liked Candlekeep Mysteries, then I would say definitely check out some of the DM's Guild stuff that which I'm sure is either being developed now or it might even be posted. I haven't been on DM's Guild in a while. I couldn't tell you. So that's my review.
So, okay, my two biggest bitches with this book. Number one kind of touches on your whole fear and horror thing. With the new class options that we get in the character creation, you can be a Dampier, which is basically you're like a half vampire. It's complicated to explain, but you're a half vampire is what you are.
Which has been around in other game systems like Pathfinder.
Oh yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, this is like nothing new, which okay, that's cool. And then you can also be a Hexblood, which is a magic being usually created by hags. You were raised by hags, blah blah blah. That's cool too. Okay, I like the options you have with those, but the biggest problem I have is every one of these you get dark vision. This is supposed to be a horror campaign. How are you going to be scared in the dark if you have dark vision?
Nice.
I know it's a small little nitpick that most people are like, okay, just get over it. But I'm just like, it's dumb. They hype up, there's so many different types of horror and this is going to be scary and blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, I have dark vision. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a zombie over in the corner. There, I can see 120 feet. I mean, right, and and I realize dark vision is not like you can like totally see, but I mean I understand how dark vision works, but still, it kind of takes some of the horror out of it, right? I mean, at least to me, I don't know. But my biggest complaint, and I'm gonna tread lightly when I talk about this because I will get myself in trouble, is what WotC is doing a lot lately. They are retconning a lot of things. And some of the domains are no exception to this. For example, they changed the whole backstory of Strahd going to Barovia and why he went to Barovia.
Yeah, I saw that.
I was just shaking my head and I'm like, WotC, no WotC.
Well, hold on a second. Did they change it in that second special printing of Curse of Strahd? Because I didn't pick up that product.
I'll have to go back and look at that to see.
Yeah.
I didn't pay that close attention to that.
See, if they changed it in there, then that makes sense.
That does. I'm gonna have to check that, but
because obviously they retcon gypsies.
Yeah, they did all that in this, and there's like 2 or 3 of the domains. They totally changed a couple of the domains. They changed the Dark Lords outright. So if you know like the history of the domains, like it's totally different. They changed the Dark Lords. Some of them they changed the backstory. And
the Drac. Yeah. Part of that is because of the Grand Conjunction. So
okay,
if you aren't familiar with that storyline, I don't know of all of them, but I know of one very particular domain that doesn't have a guy sitting in the head chair, and that was because of the original Grand Conjunction plotline from the original Ravenloft.
But that's my biggest thing is stop messing with your lore, WotC. Like, this is established lore, but that's all I'm going to say because I'm going to get myself in trouble if I keep going on.
Lore once, I never learn anything again.
Right. And it's like, I don't know.
Well, but like I said, if you are just coming into D&D, let's say you've been playing D&D only for 5 years, okay, and Ravenloft is very appealing to you. You like gothic horror or scary adventuring. I knew guys that used to play Ravenloft in a dark room with one candle. right in the center of the table. And yeah, can be kind of creepy. This is a better book for that person. For jaded old guys who played the original, it's not as shiny.
I think it's me. I'm just the old curmudgeon. Get off my lawn, you kids, with your new Ravenloft lore. But we'll see. So yeah,
the original. I mean, a lot of the original guides, the old Van Richten's guides, the old adventures, the old source material. I mean, we put so much work into those. And just like, there's a whole book on just werewolves, just vampires, just ghosts.
Oh, I love all those Van Richten's Guide to X. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
matter of fact, I'm looking at them across my room right now.
That information isn't more than like 1 or 2 pages, in a book today, which they're trying to take, 8 or 9 years worth of Ravenloft material and sum it up into one book. I don't think you can do it, but I think it takes away from it a little bit.
No, I agree. But overall, there's some good stuff. Kind of like Beaker said, there's some good stuff in this book. There's some stuff that I'm like, just no. So it's an interesting book. I'll give it that. Once again, it's available everywhere. Any online retailer has it. You can get it at your friendly local game store, which I don't know if they have any left, but there is a special cover at FLGS's only. Then you can get it on Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds as well. Mm-hmm. Then WotC did announce a couple other new products. The first one's going to be a Dungeon Master screen called the Dungeon Kit. This kit is going to equip the Dungeon Master with the screen and other tools that are perfect for running D&D adventures through dungeons, whether ruined or thriving. DM screen specifically designed for dungeon delving. It's going to have tables for encountering monsters and exploring ruins and dungeons. 36 punch-out dungeon geomorph cards. That sounds really fancy, with pathway connection points. Perfect for planning out a dungeon during game preparation or for coming up with a map in the middle of play if you need one. Customizable double-sided dry erase sheets that offers unlimited versatility for tactical gameplay. Numbered grid for sketching maps on one side and a summary of the main actions a character can take in combat on the other, which I kind of like that. That's kind of nice. You also get to get 18 illustrated punch-out condition cards, including mold and slime cards for those dungeon encounters when you need them, and 9 punch-out numbered and illustrated initiative cards to keep track of the turn order for players, monsters, and non-player characters. This is coming out August 17th, and you can get this at your local friendly game store. Also, online retailers, Amazon, any of the onlines have them. I'm not a big Dungeon Master screen person, but this sounds like it has potential, and the artwork looks pretty sweet on it. If you're watching the YouTube version, it's on the screen now. If not, go over to the site if you're listening to the podcast and check out the article, and you can see the picture of the screen cover. It looks nice, but like I said, I'm not a big Dungeon Master screen person. I don't tend to use one.
I got one.
But I mean,
one.
Yeah, I have 1 or 2, but like I said, I usually don't ever use it, even though I have one. But
a Dungeon Master screen is always challenging. What do you put in it?
Exactly.
And it's usually hit or miss.
I agree.
So, but hey, anything with a cool, graphics on the front for everybody to see is cool. I mean, if you like the custom ones like they have like on Critical Role and some of the other actual play podcasts that the guys run that have fancy wooden screens or something like that, those are a cool tool. I mean, it's all what you like and what works.
And WotC also announced today a new book that's coming out. It is The Wild Beyond the Witchlight. It's a adventure set in the Feywild. This is going to be released on September 21st.
Yay!
So,
I was excited because this seemed like, hey, this is a stellar opposite to where they just came from, i.e., adventures that are set in like Avernus or the Domains of Dread. So it seems like swinging the pendulum the other way. and have something set in the plane of the fairies and stuff.
And
I think it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun too. And they are going to release more information on this coming soon. The big quote unquote reveal of this was actually supposed to be on the D&D live stream that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. It's going to take place on July 16th and 17th. That's normally when they announce stuff. But like other books that have been spoiled by Amazon, this one got spoiled over the weekend. So WotC's just like, well, I guess we have to talk about this. There is another book coming out that we're not going to talk about because I don't know hardly anything about it other than it's spoiled on Amazon too. And if you listen to the show, usually I don't talk about it as the spoiler stuff because it tends, usually if it comes from Amazon, it usually turns out to be correct. But that one is another basically D&D magic crossover. I didn't look too much into it, but and I do like Bonnie pointed out in the show notes for this. This is, I do believe, the first time, and I think Bonnie is right, that D&D is actually ahead of a product line for 5e because we were in Feywild first.
That was a bit of a thrill.
Which doesn't. Like you said, this is the first time I think. I can't think of.
Feywild expansion is more like it's Eberron Feywild, but I don't think they're that different.
Feywild was kind of started in 4th edition, I think, right, Drac?
Yeah,
because it wasn't very much in 3rd edition.
See, I was trying to think, and I can't remember it. There was maybe a little, but I think it really expanded and really took off in 4th.
Yeah. My brain just remembered something. Maybe we are Feywild because in Eberron the Plains, it's really Thelanis the Fairy Court, which I don't think there are any references to that in the expansion in DDO.
Ooh.
So maybe we are Feywild.
You might be right. This book, once again, The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, is going to come out September 21st, like they have been doing for quite a while now. There's going to be 2 covers of this. One that you can only get at your friendly local game store, and then the other one that you'll be able to get there and also elsewhere. So look for that September 21st. As I said, more information July 16th and the 17th during the D&D Live 2021 presented by G4. And then also, apparently Jeff Goldblum is playing D&D.
Really?
It's been for a while now. They've been teasing that, and I don't know what's coming with that.
But podcast that Dark Dice is a D&D actual play podcast, but it's not one I follow. But apparently in their coming season, Jeff Goldblum is playing an evil sorcerer who's part of the party, I guess. And he's mission to, I guess, find his daughter.
How did I miss all of this? This is the first time I'm hearing of this.
No, I heard
April.
Really?
Yeah.
I hadn't heard about it. It was just something mentioned at the bottom of an announcement I read about The Wild Beyond the Witchlight. So I was like, what?
Yeah, I seriously have. This is total news to me. I had no idea about this. And
I think that would be worth listening to. I think Jeff would be fabulous.
Yeah, I think it would too, because I've always thought Jeff Goldblum would make a good wizard. I'm not going to lie to you. Just, I don't know, like every character he's ever played in every movie, I'm like, this dude would make a good, like, evil necromancer or something like that. So I'm going to have to check this out. Yeah, it's called Dark Dice, you said, is the name of it?
Dice.
I don't know, guys. I think he would just warn everybody about dinosaurs all the time.
Maybe. But maybe that's not a bad thing. Anyway, I was thinking of a crossover, but I digress. Then apparently, see, Bonnie's just breaking all sorts of news because I didn't know about this either, which I don't know how the heck.
This first part we talked about. The oldest articles I found were from January of this year.
See, I don't know how I missed this stuff.
I totally missed it too, and I was like, what?
But apparently, there's a live action D&D series coming.
The works. It's gonna be, I think what they're trying for a D&D cinematic universe, maybe? I don't know.
This was announced a while back. It was kind of on the coattails of the new movie announcement.
I swear I do not remember hearing about this, but
this is kind of early days. Like they were still a production, but yet it's such a big name writing on it. that I'm really hopeful.
I mean, when you have the creator and the writer of John Wick and Falcon and the Winter Soldier behind it, I mean, it's got to be good, right?
The Winter Soldier. So I know he's going to be there for the action of a Dungeons & Dragons series, but from the interviews, it sounds like he's also there for character building. And I've always kind of felt that D&D would work a lot better as a series than a movie, because that whole getting to know the party and the characters in it and their interactions and dynamics is an integral part of people getting invested in like a D&D kind of television show, which I think is next to impossible in a movie.
That seems to be the trend, though. I mean, I think that the Marvel series that they've had, WandaVision and Falcon, I think those have been more complete and better than if they would have done it in a 2-hour movie or
definitely
true. Well, it's hard to do in like a 2-hour movie. I mean, it really is.
At least, I mean, in the Disney series that they've had, people are familiar with most of the main characters. They already have some knowledge of them going into it, and they're just learning more or kind of following them from point A to point B as they go through their arc. And with a D&D kind of thing, unless they pick some famous characters, like a famous party of adventurers that maybe D&D fans would know, they're pretty much starting from scratch. So I think that works so much better with a series. Though I would definitely go see a D&D movie if it still has the people in it that they have cast. Because I also saw today that Hugh Grant has signed on to be in it too.
So far, the cast has not changed from what I could tell. I keep checking on that to see if there's any news, but yeah. So I have medium hopes for that D&D movie, but we'll see.
Yeah, because I'm not sure about who's writing it and the whole.
I mean, they haven't done a good job 3 times out with the D&D movie, so we'll like four times the charm, right?
Trying to get it's just going uphill the whole way trying to make a movie work.
Drac, we should do a deep dive on those first D&D movies someday.
We actually should. That would be fun to do.
Because I got some really bad opinions and some good opinions.
I'm going to make a note of that. That might be a special podcast coming soon. Yeah, that would be fun, actually. And Beaker brought some news too. See, you guys are just coming on the show and you just bring in all this news.
Well, I gotta pimp my buddies. Ending this. Hang on a second. It is ending. I believe it's either on Thursday or Saturday. It's either the 10th or the 12th. I don't remember exactly. But Paizo does these humble bundles. Now, if any people don't know what humble bundles are, they're very large collections of publishers' PDFs. They also do humble bundles for computer games, physical books and products. But the last humble bundle that Paizo did for Pathfinder raised like $50,000 for whatever charity they were running at the time. I didn't have a chance to look back and see what that one was, but this one is you're going to get, I think at the top level you can get 40 books for $40.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here.
And there's like the core books. There's like the core books. There's like the supplement books. There's one of the new APs called Extinction Curse, and there is just a ton of Pathfinder Society modules. If which are great, which are really well written and very professionally illustrated, and all of the proceeds from the Humble Bundle are going to the Asian American Pacific Islanders Against Racism a cause, which is a really good cause. So if you were looking or curious about Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which I love, I actually run a couple of Pathfinder 2e games. Very good rendition of Dungeons and Dragons. And if you like the original Pathfinder, you're gonna hopefully like 2nd edition. But that was like the number one thing that I had to bring. So if you were thinking about Pathfinder and wanted to contribute to a good cause, you can't go wrong. The next thing, now, did you hear about this? You heard about this?
Yeah, I actually posted on this over on the site.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So they announced this last week, the Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. All right, Drac. What number of Marvel role playing games is this?
Oh God, you can put me on the spot. I want to say 3, 30, 30?
Bonnie, you got a guess?
I mean, there's a lot.
4.
Well, three is.
Oh man,
So there was the original, the big box.
which was amazing, by the way.
Yep, which people still play religiously.
Oh yeah,
Then there was also TSR also did a saga system. Remember the old? So there was we flirted with a version. It was like it was kind of role playing. And you had cards and you kind of used dice. They did it with Dragonlance too. They did a version of the saga called the Marvel Superheroes Adventure Game.
I guess I don't remember that was even a thing, to be honest.
Yep. Yeah.
I remember the Dragonlance one.
It was not very popular. Then there was in 2003. Yep. Marvel Comics themselves did Marvel Universal Role Playing Game. And that edition used completely different mechanics. It was all diceless. It was cool, and like pretty much every Marvel game, it had great illustration, but it really didn't take off, and they only supported it really for about a year. Then there was, in 2011, Margaret Weiss's company acquired the rights to do a role-playing game for Marvel called the Marvel Heroic Role-Playing Game, and that was the last physical book game. There was also a dice game at one point, and I couldn't find any information on that. So this would be, if you count the dice game, this is number 5. But
Okay.
it's really probably more like, did I get that right? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, yeah, if you count the dice game, this is number 6. But otherwise, this would be number 5, and it's being written by, I haven't seen him in a few years, but Matt Forbeck, who wrote, if you remember the old Brave New World superhero game from years ago, which the system in that game kind of morphed into the Deadlands role-playing game. That was kind of the predecessor of that.
And this is actually going to be based on a brand new system they're coming up with called the D616 system.
And it's going to kind of circle around the move. So you're going to see a lot of the Spider-Man, Captain America, Thor, stuff like that.
So yeah, you can actually play existing characters, or you can create your own superhero as well too.
Right.
And they're doing like something kind of interesting with this too. Is they're going to have a playtest coming out for it, and then you're going to help shape the actual game because they're going to have a playtest rulebook that comes out, and then you can play it, you can use it, you can give them your opinions or whatever you want changed. They may or may not, change it, and you're going to help shape it. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm really looking forward to this. This probably
which is exactly what Paizo did for second edition.
Yep. 2023 is the target date. So
and if you sorry, Drac. If you follow Matt Forbeck on Twitter, he's going to be tweeting a lot about it. So and I'm sure eventually they'll have an official Twitter account for it.
Yeah, and I think March 2022 is when they're looking at starting the playtest and have the playtest rulebook out. So little while to wait, but not too bad.
That's just about the time that the Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness comes out.
Oh,
I completely forgot about that, but you're right. Yeah, look at you.
Yeah, multiverse role-playing game. Look at Bonnie.
Bringing her A game. See, I am so glad both of you were bringing your A game tonight. I'm telling you.
So the last thing I have, for those of you who play Fantasy Grounds, which the three of us do, they just released a new version of Unity that has all the lighting tools. So I don't think that there's any other desktop games that kind of have the same availability of lighting tools. When I say lighting tools, so if you have a token on a map and that token and that character has dark vision, or if they're a human then don't have any special vision but they're carrying a torch or a candle or a lantern, these new lighting tools will put that on the map. So this is something that the Fantasy Grounds community's been asking for quite some time.
Yeah.
So
nice
and they also,
effects.
yep, and also ambient lighting and stuff like that. Now, the bad news about all this is it's still in its infancy. What they don't have right now is if you take a token for a character and throw it on any old map, it's not the lighting isn't going to work. You actually have to set up each map ahead of time, which is a little bit of a detraction. But for those of us who prep our games and stuff like that, it hopefully won't be too bad.
People who do obsessive prep for their D&D sessions in Fantasy Grounds.
Yep.
I don't know anybody like that.
So,
yeah. I wanted to kind of get that out there.
So there you go. And like you said, we all use Fantasy Grounds. So, and that's the only, I've used Roll20 a little bit, but I have used Fantasy Grounds more than any of the other virtual tabletops. I haven't used Unity at all yet, though.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute.
I was afraid of that. So yeah, let's talk about the Waterdeep Dwarves game that you run, that Bonnie and I are or two of the players, I should say, in that game.
So after a confirmation about an hour and 15 minutes ago, we will hopefully, if nothing changes, we will be starting up again on June 25th. We had to take a little break. We had some personal things get in the way these last couple of months, and unfortunately that gets in front of our fun. And I think everybody needs a little bit more fun right now. But yeah, June 25th. And as soon as you guys crack level 2 of the Dungeon of the Mad Mage, I think we're going to Unity.
Okay. Interesting. And I know I've said this on the show before, but I totally am not blowing smoke when I say this. This is my favorite D&D game I'm playing in, hands down. This whole game is so fun. The party, we work well together. Of course, Bonnie and I have this love-hate relationship that works great throughout the game. If you watched any of the episodes, you know what I'm talking about with Bonnie and I's love-hate thing we got going on.
Off of our what we chose as our character backgrounds.
Yes.
It's polar opposites.
Exactly. But it's funny. We're like the polar opposites, but we always somehow end up together most of the time. And Bonnie turned me into a female dwarf as well.
I didn't do that, did I? I'm really responsible for that.
Yes, you are.
Hold on.
This had nothing to do with it.
So I'm gonna state right now for the record,
all right,
that maybe Bonnie didn't have anything to do with that.
Oh, plot twist! I see.
But yeah, it depends on if you find out or not. I see. Here's the sad news: is I got a really big yard, and I spend a lot of time cutting grass. So while I'm cutting grass, I'm thinking about what I'm going to do in this game, and that's pretty much all I think about. Because this is one of the most fun games I've ever run.
Oh, I hands down agree. It's the most fun game I've ever played into.
And kudos to everybody.
Because everybody's getting a bunch of emails.
Yeah.
Speaker must be on again.
But everybody who has contributed to this game in the last, we started this almost 3 years ago.
I gotta say, we have been running this for. I was gonna say we're on like 3 years, right?
Yeah, we're coming out. It's coming up this fall.
That's what I thought.
So, I mean, everybody that's contributed to this game has just been outstanding. Even Josh has come forward and says, Dungeon of the Mad Mage, wow, and Josh plays Ignis in the game. He says, wow, that we could just be playing this for like 10 years. And I'm like, well, hopefully we will. Or maybe not. We'll have to see how it goes.
So do you, and I'm sure since you've been cutting grass a lot, you probably have this planned out what we're doing next, right?
Next after this
Mad
adventure?
Mage, yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, really? Okay.
No.
See, that's my roundabout way of asking if I'm ever going to be a drow again. That was the roundabout way of asking that.
And believe me, I have several different scenarios planned out depending on what happens. Like, What do I do if Draven dies again? What do I do if,
Which that's another thing we're going to talk about here in a second when we talk about the next thing.
So, what do I do if you guys go this way or that? Because that's the big thing with this adventure is you could take one right turn and like spoil everything I had planned for the evening.
Like suddenly saying, "Hey, let's go find the beer of our ancestor."
Yeah.
We're going to say, which if I recall, we did do that one time.
Yes, you did. Yeah, for anyone who's not caught up, they did find a location with stored ancestral dwarven beer. However, it is guarded by several mimics. So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much in this adventure, and I think by the time we reach the end, no matter what mix of players or characters that is, I think we'll all be ready to just turn off the lights and walk away dead or alive.
There's a lot of levels to Mad Mage to Undermage, so
yeah. So we'll see, and I have some other ideas. Talk to you guys off air maybe.
Oh, okay. All right.
And
we don't make really good decisions, so you might need to make a lot of plans for what happens if I.
Well, we'll chat.
Because I feel like I'm making worse decisions with every level down we go.
Well, you're not the only one. So
yeah, I was going to say, I think the whole party tends to make bad decisions, but
Last session, I started touching things.
Yeah, but see, you guys have a full-blooded cleric now, which is kind of going to save your, your dwarven butts at some point, big time. So we'll see how it goes.
And then another game you're running is the classic D&D night.
Yeah, we'll wrap that up. So we started that as kind of a fill-in D&D night game, but I'm having so much fun with this game, and yet another opportunity for me to end the night with Drac bleeding on the floor.
Yeah, I was going to say, we need to talk about the positions you put my characters in almost every game we play.
What is that?
I don't know.
Oh, that was so great because comics like, well, we can't quit yet. Drac is unconscious and dying. I'm like, exactly. That's why we're quitting.
Yeah, that's it. I tend to do that a lot in your games. So I get my arms chopped off, or something happens to me all the time in your games. I don't know what that says about you and I, but okay.
I think it's awesome. But yeah, so we're playing B1 and Searching the Unknown, and this is first edition D&D, and a lot of the player aids and stuff like that I'm handing out to people is just straight up screen captures out of the first edition player's handbook. So you guys are almost at the end. And this was like the original dungeon crawl module. And then of course, Mr. Comic, he has this ADD obsession to unveil every section of the map.
Yes, he does.
So it could stretch out the game maybe one or two more sessions, but we'll see. And then after that, I am going to beat DDO to the table and run Isle of Dread.
That is super exciting. I'm looking forward to that.
Which is probably, that would have been one of the second modules I ever played in. Because Keep on the Borderlands was first, and then after that was Isle of Dread.
I don't think I've ever actually played Isle of Dread. I had it. Well, I mean, I still have it. I read through it countless times, but I cannot remember ever playing through it.
Have it.
Yeah, I remember dying.
A
couple of times.
I always wanted to play that, but I don't think I could ever get a group to play it.
Well, like many of the older adventures, sometimes you had to put a little bit of elbow grease in them to make them like a campaign,
exactly.
so to speak. So that in itself was a little difficult sometimes. I'm cheating a little. I'm using the Goodman Games release.
Oh, okay. All right.
Which did a few extra maps and also kind of added a little bit more flavor and color to certain areas. So
Goodman Games is doing a good job with all those classics reincarnated that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think all of them they've done a great job with. So, and when the next classic D&D night game is
That will be June 27th.
Okay, and that can be found over on the official DDO channel over on Twitch, and then the Dwarves game is on your channel.
Yeah, but you can find them both on my YouTube page,
Okay.
EvilBeeker Gaming, or the D&D Night YouTube playlist for DDO.
Yeah, and then every once in a while, the Dwarf games is actually on DDO on Sunday night too, but usually we record that on Friday.
Yeah, sometimes
Friday
it's
nights
recording,
usually.
or it's just like whenever we have a whole.
Not be able to do Sundays a lot.
Yeah, exactly. That's Sunday.
Yeah, Sundays have been tough. I know Sundays are hard for you, Bonnie. But we squeeze it in when we can.
So there you go. So Dwarves coming up the 25th, Classic D&D Night the 27th. So cool stuff on the way. So let's go into our weekend gaming and see what we have all done. I actually did play a little bit of DDO. I know, shocking for everybody listening to the podcast right now. Pine Leap and I did jump in to run the new quest, the Peril of the Planar Eyes pack. We just did it at level on 12. We did the first 3 in Element of Chaos. I Know Who Done It, which I love the title of that. That was actually a really fun quest. And Seizing the Dawn. So we have one more left. We'll kind of do a full review of the quest pack after we're done with it. But overall, I like them. They're pretty fun. Some of them were a little bit challenging. Some of them we had to figure out what the heck we needed to do. But yeah. So there you go. Actually, finally ran the new quest. Next week, I think we're going to try to finish out that quest pack. So we'll probably talk about it the week after that on the podcast and give like a little review of what we think of the new quest pack. Well, I guess the latest. I guess it's not new anymore, but the latest DDO quest pack, Peril of the Planar Eyes. And that was really pretty much my week. So how about you, Mr. Beaker? What were you up to?
Well, as you mentioned, Patrick and I did DDO cast on Memorial Day. We talked about Sinister Secrets of Saltmarsh. If you want more in-depth review of the classic modules, you can check that out. If you want to know more about Ghosts of Saltmarsh, check out Bonnie's YouTube channel, because she's been running it for years.
Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent. By the way, yes, I highly recommend checking that out.
A lot of the early quests. Well, 2 of the 3 quests in the Saltmarsh chain we do.
Yeah,
but we do weird. So, and it's set in Eberron,
which is an option in that.
Yeah, I followed other tips where I thought, okay, this will work for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
setting it in Eberron.
Yeah. Other than that, much like my dwarf game, we for reasons I won't get into, there was April and May were challenging months for gaming for me. So actually, within the last 2 weeks, got back into running a couple of my Pathfinder games. We're playing Mummy's Mask, which is a great Egyptian flavored Pathfinder 1E AP from Paizo. And then I'm also running the Age of Ashes Pathfinder 2nd Edition Adventure Path, which we're in book 3.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, Beaker.
Okay.
Okay. Pathfinder, 1E or 2E?
Actually, so that's a great question. There's two things going on there. So in our 1E game, my friend Jim is a 1E savant. He knows every rule from Pathfinder 1st Edition that was ever printed. Can rattle it out off the top of his head like nothing. So having him in that game is awesome, because then I don't have to worry about rules.
Exactly. Yeah, I can see that.
The Pathfinder 2E game. So I started picking up Pathfinder 2nd Edition for a couple of reasons. My buddy Jim works for Paizo. And I wanted to support him and his company, and I was looking for something a little fresh. I wouldn't say 5th edition has gotten stale for me, because I love the games that I'm running with you guys, But WotC's products for me have been hit or miss. I think, Drac, you're in a similar boat.
I agree. Yep.
So I wanted to kind of expand my horizons, and Pathfinder was coming out with a new edition and kind of a little bit different flavor of the rules. So I picked up all the books and said to my group, "Hey, you guys want to do this?" And they said, "Sure." And we started playing that. Now occasionally we struggle through the rules a little bit, but hey, that's what Google's for. And we've been having a pretty good time. So I would say at this point, I think I'd like them pretty much the same. Company versus the game is making for a good time.
Good answer.
And the Age of Ashes one, we actually had to move to Fantasy Grounds because we were playing that one in person. But then COVID hit.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's kind of cool, though, that you just transitioned it to Fantasy Grounds.
Yep. So, and I played a little bit of DDO. That's about it. Actually, I've been farming White Plume Mountain because I've been looking for a whelm, and I'm underwhelmed.
Well, it costs the least out of everything in there. It's always the last thing.
I have 3 black razors and 2 waves, no whelms. So that's it for me. Oh, and Drac, did you see my little note here?
Yeah, I do. Coming soon, ? I'm working out some other stuff to add to it, so yes.
Okay, great.
What we're talking about, I did kind of announce it a while back. We're going to have a giveaway. I did talk about it before. Yeah, we're going to have a giveaway that is D&D themed for the show. It's going to be for Patreons only. So if you're a patron of the show, you're going to be in it. If you want to win it, which I guess Beaker can talk about it a little bit because part of the giveaway is coming straight from him. He sent it to me to give away. He was so kind to do that. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, and it's been said on the show before that I bought a 3D printer. Well, I purchased another 3D printer. Sent back because it wasn't working right, so I'm waiting for my second 3D printer to come in. But I printed up some dragons, and if you go out to Fat Dragon Games, that's a company that sells the model files for 3D printing, and they have a model called the Great Dragon, and I printed one up in green for Drac, and I sent it off to him to give away as a prize.
Yeah, so I appreciate that very much, and I will put a link to kind of the picture of what it looks like. And like I said, this giveaway is coming soon. I'm just working on some other things to add to it with a couple game companies that are taking longer because of COVID. There's been some issues with that, but promise it's coming soon. As I said, it's going to be a patron-only giveaway. So if you want to win this awesome 3D printed dragon and the other stuff, which I'm not going to say yet because I don't know which stuff I'm going to have for sure, stay tuned. Soon, I'm hoping maybe by end of the month or early July, we'll get the giveaway going. And it's basically going to be a really easy giveaway. You're not going to have to do anything but just be a Patreon. And then any of our patrons are going to be eligible, and you can actually opt in or out. Like, I know some of our patrons, we have basically just support us just for Lotro Players, our sister podcast. So if they have no desire not to win this, that's cool. Just let me know. I'll take you out of the running. So you have the option that way. And then as long as you're in the United States, I'm going to say that because I'm going to ship this, and shipping is expensive. Any of our Patreons that want to could win this. So there you go. And it's going to be a whole little D&D themed pack of things to give away. So soon.
Also, it's important to note that I did not assemble it.
Oh, yes, I was going to mention that. It is unassembled, but it looks like it's pretty easy to put together, though.
Yeah, it is. You just need a little bit of glue and a little bit of patience.
But, yep, so I will, as I said, put a picture of what it looks like assembled and what you're going to win, but that's coming soon, I promise. I'm just working on, and I got one thing that's going to be pretty cool to add to it if it actually comes through, but the game company is being difficult for all of a sudden that I don't know why they're being difficult, but stay tuned. We'll see. So how about you, Bonnie? What were you up to this week?
Left out, in this past week, I've gotten a lot of my Kickstarters, D&D related Kickstarter things delivered. So that's been fun. I finally got my Dispel dice sets. So I've been just gazing longingly at my dice. And then Monty Cook's The Darkest House came out. I've just been reading over that in terms of dread and horror. But for DDO, I've mainly been playing on Sarlona, and I haven't really gotten to play for a good month. But last weekend I got some playtime in, and I'm doing a 5K favor run because the character I'm playing on doesn't have a lot of ability tomes. So I thought I'd do it the old-fashioned way and do all the quests and get the +5 at 5K favor. So I mainly did like the level 3 quests. I finished up all my level 3 quests, which is part of the reason why I'm so passionate about Sinister Secrets of Saltmarsh being level 3.
I understand now. It totally makes sense now.
Started doing level 4 and level 5 quests, and I'm already like banking level 8 doing level 4 and 5 quests. So there's way too much stuff to do to try to do the kind of favor run that I'm doing and not lose experience. So yeah, I really wish that wasn't level 3. But I did the Catacombs chain, which this is maybe the third time I've done it since they updated it and changed around some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And while I like that they made it so you didn't have to keep running up the stairs.
Yes, thank God.
A lot of the stuff in these quests, it still like makes me scratch my head about why they made some changes in the story that they did.
They did make some weird changes. I will agree with you.
And look at the library, how they added crests and sockets. I mean, I grit my teeth every time.
No, I agree. 100%.
How many times did you exit out of a quest accidentally before getting the final reward?
I haven't, but I
have.
But
I have done it too, once or twice.
I was scratching my head about like, where's my end chest? And so I started looking around, and then I found Greylight. I guess finding Greylight, it's up at the entrance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't really get Greylight, but okay. I wasn't really fond of that change per se. I did a lot of, because this past weekend was bonus to challenge ingredients. And I found that I needed some level 7 bracers of wind because I am a warlock that uses the, what is it? The Heavenly Pact or whatever. I can't remember what it's called, but the one that has electrical spell power.
Oh, yeah, I never play it because I always play the evil warlock. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Shock.
Yeah, I know. Everybody's like, "What? You play an evil character? What?" Yeah, I know exactly.
I'm warlock, but I'm good. I'm heavenly. But I don't have any gear, so it was the most convenient thing to get since I hadn't done Feywild yet. And it's the only one I did a lot of Behind the Door, which is the easiest one to solo. Which also reminded me again how irritated I am that they added in more stricter level range on the challenges at some point years ago. But I remember they weren't like that always. It used to be like when they were first introduced, you could pretty much go into any of them at any level and give it a good try. Like there was still a minimum level or a level range, I think, of what was available to run, but they didn't block you from going in if you were like level 6 and wanted to go in the extraplanar mining fortress, which starts at level 8. And I've been bitter ever since they changed that. I'm never the level that can go into the quest or go into the challenge that the ingredient type that I need when I think of it. And that's really frustrating. I wish they would take that off, strip off the level restrictions and let me go and do challenges. Because so few people do challenges that I feel we should be able to do challenges when we want to do challenges. That is all. And I did some Tangleroot and Sharn Syndicate, which also made me think Sharn Syndicate is the chain, or I would really like to see some epic content that had to do with Sharn Syndicate. Maybe not epicifying the quest we have now necessarily, but adding more of them. Because even when Sharn, we have the Koromar people, that gang, but we don't really see much of Sharn Syndicate.
That would be kind of cool for them to expand that a little bit and kind of expand on that story. Yeah,
more from those guys. I mean, in Stormreach, I'd like to see more of them. Make it happen. Standing Stone Games, make it happen. And that was pretty much DDO.
Hey, Bonnie,
Uh-huh.
you picked up the Kickstarter, Monty's Kickstarter. What was it called?
The Darkest House.
Did you get the Invisible Sun?
No, I don't think I did. I
Okay.
mainly just got the Darkest House.
Okay, Drac, did you know which product I'm talking about?
Yeah,
right?
no.
You don't got a copy of it? You don't have a copy of it?
No. Wasn't that the one that was like stupid, god awful expensive? Or am I
Yes.
thinking of the. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
No, I didn't actually get that.
What I got was reasonably priced.
Yeah,
exactly.
I've always wanted to try that game, and
Me too. It looks super interesting, but not for the price.
It's a very odd combination of things that you normally don't find in a role playing game, and sometimes that makes it attractive. And I was just kind of wondering if Bonnie had Invisible Sun and what she thought about it, because I haven't really found a decent review of it. There's been a couple, but not one where I kind of shook my head and said, there's got to be more to it than that.
Anything else I've done that was on Kickstarter has been Cold Press. Like
Okay.
the Scarlet Citadel that I think is due to be delivered in July. I did that, so I should be getting a copy of that. And I got it for Fantasy Grounds as well.
Oh.
Looking forward to see what's what with that, because that looks like a pretty nice dungeon crawl.
Actually, one of my Kickstarters is finally coming through, and that was the Grimmer Space one.
I think I remember seeing that one.
That is so Paizo has their sci-fi game Starfinder. It's a cross between Starfinder and Call of Cthulhu.
Really?
It was actually sponsored by Sean Astin of Lord of the Rings fame.
Oh, I kind of remember. Yeah. I do remember that. I remember him, like he was doing some RPG, but I didn't. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the Kickstarter got punched in the face by COVID and lost a couple of authors, but then a bunch of the Paizo authors staff stepped in, including Jason Bowman, and helped finish the project. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to playing that.
Yeah, that sounds like an interesting crossover between the two things. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. So cool. There you go. That was our week in gaming. We currently have 16 supporters over on the Patreon. If you would like to help support DDO players, you can go over to our donations page. You can help support the Players Alliance, which is the podcast network we are a part of. The money is used for podcast hosting, website hosting, and to help pay for the live show, which the show is normally live. This week, not so much because my schedule was weird, and more on that in a minute. If you would like just to donate without going through Patreon, which a couple of people have done, you can do that. Just send me email, Drac at ddoplayers.com. Once again, Drac at ddoplayers.com, and we can discuss the best ways for you to do that. Once again, the giveaway that's coming fairly soon have to be a patron of the show or the network, either one. Like I said, people that we do have some crossover. Some people listens to both podcasts, which is perfectly fine. But if for some reason you don't want to win any of the D&D stuff, that's perfectly fine as well too. Just let me know. But any of the patrons automatically going to be entered into the contest. We didn't get any reviews for the podcast on any of the podcast apps. Go ahead and do that if you would like. It kind of does help the show. It helps us push us up further into search results. The more reviews you have on any of the podcast apps, which there are a ton of them. No future comments this week's either, and no emails. Podcast at ddoplayers.com. If you want to send and email, Twitter, you can follow the Players Alliance Network at Players Ally. DDO Players is at DDO Players. I am at Dracula_72. Pineleaf, who normally is here with me on the show, is at Pineleaf Needles. Our guests can be found on Twitter and Twitch, both at
EvilBeeker.
I was hoping that was going to happen when I did that. I purposely didn't say a name to see what was going to happen.
It's a trap.
It was a trap, and you fell right into it. Okay, Beaker, you go first.
You can find me on Twitter at EvilBeeker. You can also find me on Instagram and YouTube, EvilBeeker Gaming.
And I will add all those links into the show notes. Bonnie?
You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch, though I don't do that much on Twitch, at BonnieBew. That's Bonnie BEW, Bew, the sound that lasers make.
Once again, all of the pertinent links will be in the show notes once I edit the show notes and add said notes. The Players Alliance has 2 live shows every week, almost every week for us. DDO Players News happens Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern usually. The show is kind of weird here lately just because of my schedule. Bear with me. It's getting better. It still might be a little weird, so just keep that in mind. Saturdays, God bless Lotro Players News every Saturday night at 8:30. They always podcast. They have it a little easier, though, because they have like a round table of guests. There's like 6 guests that hosts that are on that show. So usually at least 2 of them can show up so they can podcast easily. It's kind of difficult for the show because it's just me and Pine Leap usually, unless we have a guest. So, but again, I apologize for my weird schedule, but you can follow our live shows at ddoplayers.com/live. Just click on the listen live link and there you have it. So once again, thanks to Bonnie and EvilBeeker for both coming on the show. Enjoy having you on. And like I said, it's been a while since you've both been on, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yep, thanks.
Any other thing you 2 want to plug before we go?
I got nothing.
Waterdeep Dwarves.
Yeah, Waterdeep Dwarves.
Friday, June 25th.
5th.
On my channel on Twitch.
Which you can find the link in the show notes, so look for that. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the show tonight. Thank you for joining me, you 2, and also thank you guys for listening. This show will be edited and put up soon within the next couple days, so you'll be able to hear it. Until next time we podcast, may the RNG be a lot kinder to you than it ever is to me.